This is Ben and I'm Jung, and we've been talking on intercom for a while, and then we decided to pull this into a camera because we had such a good conversation. And today we'll be talking about a lot of different topics that we always cover when we talk. So Ben, why don't you just give us a brief introduction of what you do and yeah, about my digital CMO.
Okay, thank you. Good to be with you. So at My Digital CMO, we help agencies, marketing leaders, and anyone who needs one create brilliant marketing strategy. So I think what we started out achieving was trying to disseminate or get rid of some of the difficulties people or main business owners or people who run strategies for business, just helping them figure out what strategy really means. So over the years, I've worked in big corporate marketing, and consistently, every time I met a business person, they'd be talking about tactics, not strategy. Within the business, they'd be talking about tactics, not strategy. We'd have big strategy sessions and no one knew how to make that happen. So the passion for the product grew out of just an experience seeing that we need systematic approach to things. And even though I call myself a digital marketer, at the end, once the team is doing the marketing, it's all about process, productivity, or efficiency, and adapting to technology. So we created our product to help businesses be more productive in producing strategy and then be more efficient in how they approach that. And I think when we met through Clippy, I had already been a founder for a little while, and I understood just how important customer feedback is. And actually, I learned a lot about your product just through the structure you had set up. So I think you had open communication channels. And then with the intercom product you're using, you could ask a question and you actually answered. And then I could see the same themes in your business. So I needed something to help me be more productive. So I talk about productivity as can I do the job? Okay. Well, I couldn't do it. I needed the CRM to help me do the job. And then, there's a little bit of onboarding. Maybe I don't understand a concept. I didn't have any technical issues, but sometimes you just need someone to explain it to you. The customer support was good. And the theme's the same in our business. We have a good framework. People sort of like, what are you thinking about? Well, you go back and say, this is step one, then step two. And then, of course, we talk about we're in a similar area. We're founders. We have a product that helps customers. We're putting in a structure, and then facilitating that efficiency becomes part of the focus over time. So that's sort of how I see it coming together. So it's good to actually have a discussion around, it all boils down often especially from the business side, to some of those key things. What's the foundation? Are you being productive? Where's the efficiency? And for our side, we're trying to create the opportunity for marketing leaders. We started off actually with small businesses and trying to help solopreneurs, but it was the framework that bigger marketing operations found appealing. So then we haven't left our solopreneurs behind, but just the change in technology with AI and those things, people can do a once-off strategy pretty easily. So that's not our core product anymore.
I think you did mention it as well. I think it resonates because so for me, our side Clippy is also have a very similar approach to this. I've been doing IT for a very long time, so I've been a developer, and I've also been helping sort of develop AI solutions for enterprises. And eventually, when the economy wasn't good, I actually went back to doing consulting. And there I was actually helping businesses implement softwares like ERP software or CRM software. And what we actually see is that people crave operations structure that basically generates sort of predictable results in their operations, but they sort of ignore the fact that the tool is just a tool and the tool does not bring discipline together with it. So there was a lot of pain in terms of how the tool comes into the team operations, and also behind it the alignment of the values. And I mean, obviously when you implement the tool, there's a lot of additional work that actually comes with it, even though it brings efficiency. So what we saw as an opportunity was leveraging AI to actually remove this barrier of entry for organizational level, which actually turned out to be a pretty interesting concept. I mean, for now, we're actually saying, hey, why don't I create a CRM that has zero administration, which is one of the biggest hurdles for organizations to implement CRM and keep using it. Implementing is easy. They have everything set up, and then 2 to 3 months down the road, you go in there and then you start having issues like, hey, did you update the CRM? No. Why didn't you do it? Oh, I didn't know. Okay, I will put it in. And then like some of the experiences I had was that we purchased this like really nice HubSpot setup, run it for 3 months, and then all the records are apparently there. And then when we open it, it said I had a call with A, I had a meeting with B, I met C in the coffee shop, and that has no value or context. So actually, then they had to go through re-education again and again and again until actually they ended up rolling back to their Excel based workflow again. So these was areas.
How did you focus on CRM? Like, why did you, what out of all the experience you had, you started the CRM as your core product that could make the biggest difference?
I think it is easy to sort of categorize things like a CRM on ERP or CMS, and then I mean it's just for the ease of explaining it. But at the end of the day, we're talking about just business operations monitoring and sort of operations automation. That's all we do. Ideally speaking, my end goal is to actually be able to help more operations heavy processes like inventory or procurement at the end. But these areas are more of a back end operations. Businesses don't easily move to actually invest in the software because first, it is very expensive to implement, and second, it is considered a back-end operations, so they prefer to rely on the operations that already work, which is human-based. So CRM was just a natural course we saw. There's a lot of contextual information in sales. There's not much structured information. You're having conversations here and there. It's very time sensitive. There's a lot of volume of text that you have to actually process in your head and put it into the computer. So we focused on this first because I think it can help businesses actually make a value out much faster. So it was just a time ROI sense that, and also second thing is I needed it myself because I have the same problem with myself with my own HubSpot setup. And then when I have to maintain the CRM and do the sales at the same time, I realize that I don't have time to update it. I put it on the wall. I put a sticky note on the wall saying that I need to update this. And then that sticky note just stays up there for 3 weeks, and then I can't remember what was the conversation about anymore. So we we were just thinking, hey, if large language models are that cheap, why can't I just put it into the system using AI? And that's how we started it. And we are seeing more and more opportunities in other areas. I think there are a lot of companies also doing procurement or even payment processing, inventory, order processing. All these areas can be improved by AI, but we need to start with the front end operations, which is sales. So that's why we started there.
From the opposite end, I feel like my tech founder actually was running 3 small businesses and kept coming to me as like, how does this marketing thing work? And one day we just, after writing it out on big butcher paper over and over again, like this, I started writing it down. This should be an app. So I feel like we came to the technology late late in the process, I should say, because we started as SaaS, but really it was the concept around how the process should work. But the change has been pretty crazy because I remember one of our customers made a comment like, "Oh, this would be really good if it had AI in it." We're like, "What? What? Oh, okay." And you start looking at AI and large language models and GPTs getting released, and we're like, "Oh, maybe we can write a feature, that helps accelerate." But now, something 6 months ago we thought we might charge for as an AI feature, we've already put it in as something for free because it's it is pretty cheap, and you have to have it. I don't think it makes the product core different, but
Mm-hmm.
there's almost a mindset of, well, if you're not adapted for change, your customers they know you're going to be left behind. So you also have to have that philosophy within the business of adopting the technology and changing over time. So I think you're probably right. And the way you talk about AI, when I've spoken to other places, having it as a augmenter is and a quick, each component should be developed and released quickly so you can get the value of it or from it. As a much starts in a very different spot than we started, which was, well, you've got to have the first layer down, then the second layer down, and
Yeah.
then keep building that.
We talked a bit about efficiency, and I think we both are working on tools that actually facilitates sort of a like an organization or business efficiency. So I wanted to ask, maybe based on your experience with all these AIs coming up in the market, how do you see the businesses approaches to efficiencies changing? It could be in our domain or it could be in a grand scheme. I think I have a lot of opinion about developer efficiency right now because currently I am able to build up a CRM from scratch by myself, which actually is only possible because of AI as well. So I wanted to see what you have as your insight on this.
So I was independently thinking about productivity versus efficiency. So I think some people use it interchangeably, but if our productivity is there, you can make it more efficient. So just the ability to do what you need to do is productivity. Now, where you introduce the AI there, that's not necessarily important for this concept, but if we introduce AI before the productivity, or it's the same as introducing any other tool, it's not necessarily going to work just for its own sake. But as the technology has developed, you can really clearly see something that augments productivity to get you to the start of that, or the most impactful part of that productivity is really important. So when we did a pretty good customer survey at the end of the year, and everyone wanted more AI, but they don't know why, right? But where we get really great feedback is when we use, it's not always AI, but when we shorten the time to realize that value. Obviously, our customers are trying to service other businesses. So they want to make money, and the money is made not so much from the strategy, it's made from activating their services. So they don't want a long drawn out process creating a strategy, for our example. But then the end customer, they don't care about the agency's efficiency at all. They care about the results. So it's an interesting kind of interface where we think a lot about how can the technology improve our platform, but you can't infect the end result with that. It has to be a good structure of itself.
I actually do agree with it. I think one of the big part of the product, or even like the way we operate in general, we took a lot of insights from so there's a tool called Linear that is used for product management. And they're very well known for being extremely opinionated. There's barriers to customization in certain parts that they actually believe is their core framework. And it sort of forces you to work in certain ways. Um, and then it actually does help like a product to be more thoroughly used, and their feature adoption goes up because of this as well. But at the same time, the framework that they're actually trying to force with the tool does help with prioritization, or even because there's no cluttered information, so there's no extra information to be seen. So the time to decision goes much faster as well. And for our side, so because of this philosophy, that's why like even everything we do in terms of framework, in terms of features, in terms of the UI design as well, it's all aligned with the value of actually a lot of people talk about doing million things to become successful, but then potentially you just need to do 5 things really well to become successful instead of trying to spread yourself out into 100 things. So That's sort of how our product developed. And I mean, the way we operate also is constantly about what can we not do. So we actually call this, I mean, in product development, we talk about jobs to be done, but then we have a board called jobs to be gone. Actually, yeah, that's actually how we operate. And then when we actually have requests from customers, like, hey, I want to do this, I want this feature, I want to do this. And then we always try to ask, why do you need this? And what would happen if you don't do this? Or what if you don't have to do this anymore, but it will happen? Will it have a very big impact in the deliveries you make? And that's actually how we've been developing things, which is why we're missing a lot of features, but the features we adopt actually does get used.
Well, what you're asking about efficiency, and
Yeah.
it's a really you got to walk that line very carefully. I remember a few years ago, I evaluated some of our enterprise products, and you work out that you're paying 3 times for an element of a product. So as the product grows, it overlaps. So that's deliberate. But then as a customer, you're paying 3 times for a feature. You can only use it once. Or the alternate, you know, you want customization, but if we let you customize, you end up being bespoke and it doesn't actually help. So you can go, oh, but I need to solve this part here. And it just bogs you down because it's not actually a good process to begin with. So our product got a lot more support when we allowed customization, but it was around the immediate nuance of the customer and it didn't actually change the core purpose of the product. So we we've gone down some of those traps as well. This feature is really going to work. It really makes sense. It's totally in line with what we think, but actually it's so nuanced to a certain number of businesses. There's not a lot of growth in it. So that is not efficient for us, but it's also not efficient for our customers. So if you can have that product direction that creates efficiency without letting the customer go off down too many rabbit holes, it's actually I think where we want to be, so that we're allowing customization, customized to a business, some white labeling, some allow you to have your own approach. And so the product has to be adaptable within that framework, or it becomes inefficient for you and the customer. Actually,
Yeah. I think it also comes down to our belief in things like we call this best practices. And then best practices are so well carved into stone by some of the books, but then you rarely see it actually executed well. And one of the fun thing is like based on my experience delivering these enterprise tools, we have much more success implementing enterprise tool to a company that never had one compared to the ones that had, which is actually, it comes down to that discussion of efficiency versus productivity. Is ones that already had a CRM and then they're migrating already built their model of efficiency. The processes are already aligned there. So the new tool with the new framework actually reduces efficiency because it is forcing them to change what actually they already optimized. So I think this also gives a lot of idea on why some of the B2B tools come in and then they end up just basically replicating what's in the market is probably this issue forcing them to change. Um, but then it also gives us a good kind of perspective on how you can define efficiency is also contextual based on each businesses and how I call this the history, the weight of history actually goes into the definition of efficiency they have. So I think this is interesting always to see. We try to help individual person, and that's actually where AI do excel a lot on easily. I think individual efficiency is easy to solve with AI, but our current understanding is that when it comes down to organizational efficiency, then there's another game to be played over there as well.
yeah. I definitely agree with with the gap where our customers see a gap. We don't have this, or it helps solve a particular problem, or prefer to say it helps them adapt to a better way. Maybe they want to scale, do that repeat process rather than inventing it. So often, you can start again, do it slightly differently. That's not efficient either. And a lot of our customers don't want one big platform because they know they're not going to pay for 80%, or they're not going to use for 80% of the features. They're not going to use 80% of the features, and they're going to pay for it. So a more tactical solution in their framework actually is more appealing because it solves that challenge. And then I think the other part of where I see it, the similarity, we have a lot of small agencies or marketing operations that want to grow. And so they they might have a product. It's either inappropriate or not inappropriate, doesn't fit their needs anymore, or it's a gap they recognize and they want to grow into that, manage more customers and so forth. But yeah, I would agree. It's easier to fill a gap than replace an existing product. To a point though, because some of the big platforms that have great features penalize you for growth. So if you're paying per user every time you add, so let's say in our scenario, you've got a small team, but collaborative workspace is an advantage. Like some in this way, Trello is a good example. Trello, brilliant workspace. You can do everything, but every time you expand your services to another team, you got to add another 10 licenses. So that can become a real impediment for a growing business, right? Don't keep adding cost and complexity, especially if their services are quite simple and they want to get to that channel execution.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we can switch to another topic which we discussed before, was related to, I guess, so we talked a little bit about maintaining relationship, the switch and changes in marketing and sales because of AI, which was a big topic we kept talking about for the last few calls. And considering you were probably one of the most experienced marketer that I have been talking to, I would like to actually ask, what has changed over the last 3 years in marketing? Has anything changed?
That's a great question. A lot has changed. I guess I had a privilege of working with big enterprise software, and it's out of the reach of many businesses, just not practical for mid-size or lower to use massive software projects. I feel like the core principles of marketing are the same, because at the end of the day, it's a person. So the person consuming the message is the point. So the fundamentals of that communication haven't actually changed. So even though the technology, my career is based on adapting to technology. That's all I did. Actually, if you look at what marketing is, once you establish the direction, it is just making it work in the current environment you have. If you got more money, it's a lot easier. But the reality is, even at a large level, there is not ever unlimited funding, because it always comes down to how much money have you got per sale to spend on marketing. I think about, the first big website, marketing initiative was the million pixel web page. It's a big thing. It's like, oh, you can get on the internet, and I bought 10 pixels, whatever it was. You have your logo there, and this I should know the name, but I've forgotten. But this person came up with this idea. Oh, I'm going to have a million pixel website, and it's going to live forever. You can still find it. It's like marketing on the moon, right? There's a limited space, but the people came alive because it was one-to-one marketing. So website is one-to-one marketing. You've got one person, one screen, that's one-to-one. And we still are talking about one-to-one marketing like many years later. So when was the internet started in the late 90s, really commercially very well. Huge change to online brochures, right, around 2000, something like that. And then e-commerce was really clunky and transactional, nothing to do with consumer experience at all. And so the themes within marketing that have changed are all around how you engage the human element better. So even now, you'll see one-to-one marketing personalization. And so the data behind it, the flexibility behind it is all still headed the same direction, which is that person, does that person need this thing? And have I explained myself well enough for that person to want this thing? Whether it's B2B or B2C, I see now a lot of the B2B marketing, really similar themes to what we had in B2C for a long time. And it's interesting to take yourself out of a business for a while, and new managers, and they're still talking about the same thing. The technology has changed a lot, but there's these big punctuated revolutions like the internet boom and bust, and then there was data and big. I remember sitting in a conference of big data. Oh, what's big data? But my version of big data, you get an email outbound a loyalty management program. Oh, I'm going to have 40 different fields so I can cut the data each way. And you end up using like 2 fields, right? The name and what they purchased. I don't know. So, and then that gets more efficient. And then we have marketing automation. I remember we used to target people with marketing cubes, right? Splice it, 2 views. Woo. So now that the technology makes it more and more accessible, but somehow the experience still is required to refine that. So the technology is just insane. And I mean, I don't know what I feel like some ways it's moving faster, but it's not a new theme. So maybe the releases are going to be faster, but for what I'm seeing at the end consumer, whether it's B2B or B2C, the human element remains. So one last aspect.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I think the focus on customer experience has changed everything, because when you have that mobile apps really have that one-to-one experience totally sort of framed in very effectively. And so that changes expectations everywhere else. And, you can see it backfilling, but the customer experience becomes a really important unifying direction. So even now we work remote, we're in different locations. I've been remote, 100% remote for more than 5 years, still working with hundreds of people. But the unifier is the customer result at the end. So you can unify anyone about systems, processes, tools. If you agree what the end destination is, it also helps finding your purpose if that's all directed. So yeah, I don't know. That's how I see it. That it's very non-technical. So for me, the technical pathway helps. You're constantly trying to redefine those technical pathways to help that process.
Mm-hmm. I think I have to 100% agree with this. I mean, I have a little bit more of a sales approach to this topic. For me, marketing, I started doing marketing when everything was already digital. So my first job was just like launching CPC ads, banner ads here and there, mobile. And then actually around that time, the first thing that came up was on Android phones, you can actually place an advertisement on the lock screen. It was new. Like when I first started, that was new. And then, so from there on, I always started marketing from digital point of view, because people were actually spending more and more screen time on the phones and on the screens. And I think there was an interesting discussion I had with another person before, was also similar theme, that the concept or the core of sales or marketing hasn't changed. It's just through where and how frequently and how fast. So I think one of the big things I see as a shift, it happens every time when there's a disruption. People think it will change everything. People say, oh, it's a new era. And then I think it's also boiling down to the same thing now. Like we had AI sales development representatives and all these tools coming out saying that, hey, the AI will talk to the leads and then qualify them and put a meeting in your calendar. And then there was another tool saying that, oh, you can send AI into the meeting and they will seal the deal. I think some of them probably died out. We're normalizing now. And what we discussed was I think it's similar to marketing, also similar to sales is, and then it goes back to our original theme of efficiency and productivity is AI is removing a lot of the tasks that we had to do to be able to sit down and have a talk. And then it actually allows us to talk to more users, more leads or customers, and be able to focus on those conversations a little bit more. Because we're doing so a lot of the things people do ignore is that you actually, the more information you have before you get on the call, the better the conversation goes. And then this part already requires research, which actually is rapidly being accelerated by AI, and also the administration. So our our tool obviously focuses on removing administration so that you can actually have more time to think and talk to people. And all these elements were actually just kind of coming down to, can I talk to more people more genuinely and have better conversations, better understanding of their problems and needs, and be able to support them faster because of all the productivity and efficiency in product development and delivery area. So when I actually look at the way I used to sell and build and sell SaaS before and now, is the difference, only difference is that I have more time to talk to more people, to get to know more of their problems and be able to solve more problems, which actually is sort of translated. I mean, in LinkedIn, everybody's talking about, oh, you can build a 15 million ARR company with 5 people. But, and then we look at it from a financial point of view, like, oh, it's more efficient, it's smaller, leaner, make more business. But then actually, if I translate it back to humans, then it just means that they are able to reach and tell them what they really need. So be able to discover people's problem on a massive scale, be able to distribute contents or materials to these people more effectively and efficiently, and be able to process more of these things, have more conversations, and deliver more value faster than before. I mean, we talk about, it's more like, it's funny in a way that we talk about how digital transformation has detached humans from each other. We're looking at screens more than each other's faces. We get information from social media instead of talking to each other. You feel emotions from digital methods as well. But with AI coming back, what I'm actually seeing is I am actually freeing myself more from digital world and be able to connect with more people and have a human to human conversations like you and I. I think right now, I mean, we've been talking through intercom and LinkedIn, and then now on a camera a few times. And this actually, for me, is what AI brought us, funnily speaking, saving us from the matrix again, pulling us out of there, and then have more conversations. Yeah.
That's right. Well, I really like the example of sales, having shortening that. If people aren't interested, okay, that's fine. But if you can remove that piece, it actually helps your mental health as well, because you're not dealing with 30 people that don't want to talk to you. You're just dealing with the one that does, which is a huge difference. But in terms of other roles, I'm not seeing a whole lot of layoffs because people are using AI. And in the teams I've been involved with, I know there are processes that are shortened, but I don't see, and I read some Gartner and Forrester reports recently, business leaders aren't interested in cutting costs, although sometimes they have to. They're interested in growth. So the best way of introducing growth is to have more of that valuable time with any employee. Spend more of your time adding value than just doing some of those roles. So it should actually increase engagement and productivity, and then at a wider business sense, efficiency. So it's certainly, I think the noise, and now we're just talking about AI, but it's hard to have a practical conversation sometimes without someone mentioning AI. But I'm seeing the conversation around business and effectiveness coming back, and AI has sorted out some problems, maybe makes some individual use cases definitely changes a lot of things and enabling it, but it's still not changing a lot of business fundamentals, but enhancing them, which is a good place to be.
Yeah, I think I mentioned briefly is really, from what I see, is really coming down to time to decision, like decreasing the time to decision, and it actually comes from either automation, helping remove some of the administrative work of entering or retrieving information and processing them to make decisions, and also just around bringing clarity in a sense, because a lot of the decisions we make, I guess it comes down to 80-20. Is 80% of it is a repetitive decision you have to make, but then it becomes harder because the context you have to process is large, for example. But then we should be spending a lot of time on the 20%, which is actually looking at the gaps in between the lines. So I think increasing focus, and actually applying this in all different layers of business operations for everyone, basically, to be able to be more focused, making better decisions faster, easier for more important tasks or important kind of maneuvers that have to make. I think that is what's actually helping a lot.
Yeah. So I think we use the example of customer service actually with intercom, and I definitely have found that when you customers give you more information if they see a transparent human element, but it also needs to be a seamlessly automated in a way. Like if we have email is pretty clunky. Oh, have you got time? Yeah, I got time. When do you have time? Okay, fill out my calendar. You're still following that process, so that's great. We can shorten that with an AI thing. That's fine. But where we find a lot of value is putting in a process, but that's within the product is very effective. So if you've got a problem you want to solve quickly, and that's where some of that technology is really helping us. And we have got customers doing video screen. They can be bothered, right? They can be bothered explaining what their problem is because they know they're going to get a response. So I think there's a really nice balance of using that technology to enhance your customer support, and they can be bothered. We can be bothered taking it on back. We can tell them yes or no. We're getting better at no, but there's a nice mix there. But it's ironic to me because we spent lots of years saying, email, this is to show you how old I am. Email is, it can't be relied upon as a channel. Right? You can't. I can send you an email. I don't know if you read it. I could put read receipt on. Maybe you blocked it. Text, only 20% of tone and intent is transferred through text. So that's also not good. So everything's around, I've got to talk to you in person, but that's also not practical. So I think that's changing. I haven't heard anyone say that in as much detail as we used to get. Like, oh, our text is never helps. There's so much contextual information around that, you can really build a picture with some of these tools if you have the usage and you know what they're looking at, you know how much they use it. Did they not look at it for a month or two? Maybe they need a different. So it's kind of an interesting evolution of communication where those things are now much, much more intuitive and insightful than just text.
Yeah, I think it is very exciting times, but we're going back to our original kind of uh, form. I think for I think another like this kind of interesting discussion I've been looking at was because of AI, people. So I think it actually goes back to one of the marketing topics is the changes around SEO is very interesting in a way that changes in SEO landscape, it's still ongoing, so I can't really say anything concrete about it, but the way people make purchase decisions are shifting. And I think that's why we've been seeing a lot of success through personal brands, was that we got very used to relying on Google for supplying us the right information when we are trying to look for options for different purchases. And then now with AI flooding the information space, actually people started moving away from it to make decisions, instead relying on a person. I trust this person, so I buy this product instead of like I did my research on Google and then making a decision. So that actually makes it very funny in a way that we're just moving in a cycle again.
So is the LLM replacing the person?
No. So LLM is actually supposed to help businesses make more growth through helping them. So that's what like the first spin of LLM was all on SEO. Like you can write SEO articles, you can find SEO keywords using AI. And then the funny thing is it pushed so much volume that it pushed the buyers out of that market on the decision making process.
Well, also if everyone
Yeah.
has access to the same tool, it's no longer going to differentiate you.
Yeah,
So,
there's no competition.
and I see that from a business strategy point of view. A strategy that is just content and messaging isn't a strategy. Yeah. So it's not gonna help you long term. I mean, it'll help you. It definitely enables a lot, but in terms of productivity or efficiency, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting to see that. But so you think the our influencers are still got a job, not going to be replaced by AI, so we're okay.
I think, I mean, because at the end of the day, like marketing, sales, or in general business is really revolving around how mass makes decisions. Yeah, the process of the psychological process, like buyers go through, and that's where all the channels go as well. Like I just mentioned before, was like digital marketing was great because people were actually consuming information more on mobile phones, and that was new to them as well. And then they were basically out of 24 hours, they were spending more and more screen time, which means we can get more exposure to them. But then now it became a norm for, I think we talk about how, what they call it, Gen Zs are behaving differently is probably because of the medium they're more used to getting information from. I mean, they are probably, if we tell them, hey, read newspaper to get information, they will reject. But then I think I still prefer newspapers to online news because I grew up reading newspapers instead of consuming it on Twitter. So I think it's just really about like each kind of cohort of people where they consume more information and what point they decide to buy. And I think that's changing. I just find it very interesting that this whole LLM thing came in and kind of moved the old OGs from their behavior back to their old behavior, which was very interesting to see. I think I'm looking at the time as well, so I was going to shift the focus from here to something more juicy. Is in light of all these things, I guess we could try to predict what might happen in the future in the next 2 years. What do you think might or might not happen that you think is a big next big thing
The
in
next big
marketing,
thing.
sales, business? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I don't know. Oh, that's you got to catch me out. What is the next big thing? I really don't know. I'm not worried about it. Um, I I'm wondering how fast technology will come through. I think there was a lot of fear about generative technologies. I'm not seeing. I still see the business world moving really slowly. So for all the efficiency and productivity, only new businesses can do the ideal model, and 95% of businesses are the old model. So I think from a core, so for us, from a core product point of view, I think it'll still be valid. What we're seeing now is a lot of our supporting technologies coming really cheaply, but so it's easier and faster for us to develop and change. So we do talk about, well, how much we will change even this year instead of 2 years. But I feel like we're going to see less fear about technology killing everybody's jobs and a resurgence in identifying the importance of human connection. So if you're on LinkedIn or something. It's all about human connection. And it was really interesting to me, this factor where all the big platforms say, oh, but you've got to authentically communicate at scale. Well, that's not possible for a human, and people don't want it not to be a human. So I think there's going to be some normalizing in sort of business relationships. And I hope it's just an improvement of what we talked about, which is it's easier to find people that you want to collaborate with, you want to do business with, you want to talk to. And I think that's going to be the theme. So in terms of the human interaction, we can see a theme, but what about the technology direction? Because that's going to change a lot potentially.
Yeah. So I think in basics is, I think I cannot just talk about my own experience, is that it's hard to describe, but because of these AI tools actually doing all the heavy lifting, and we've not been actually realizing this, but on our side, especially because we're building this tool, and I can actually see the time I spend is not related to data anymore, and it's more about understanding the person. When we were actually changing the operations over time, especially on digital, you have so many touch points. So to have a lot of data points to process, then so if you have 100 people in marketing and sales department, then some of the cases I see 80% of them are actually just solely tasked on processing data instead of actually looking at the counts. And then we get used to consuming this information that you see salespeople going into the meeting, not really understanding what this person is. Instead, they know how much is the value of the account and just the journey or the money they spent on acquiring these people. So I think it's just the mental switch is potentially happening in a way that the AI actually did all these vetting for you. So we know this person is worth talking to. Then how would you respond to it? And this is this is what this person likes. This person talked about this, and then based on all the statistics, they're probably more likely talking about this or interested in these topics. If you're given these contextual information, how would you respond to that as a salesperson? Was something that I'm more interested in, and I think Pareto principle was always the big thing, the main thing in sales. And I think it actually coming down to a point where more people can actually apply this principle, spend more time on really, really important things. And some of the things I saw over here as well is because I'm a little bit more younger. So people that around me are like at best around VP of sales level right now. But when we talk to them, is some of them actually do have like a wall in their profession because they cannot really carry through the relationships they build as a salesperson in one place to another. And the ones that actually do succeed is actually the ones that actually keeps building their own personal network as they progress through their career. And I think that is becoming a little bit accessible to people. And I do want to make it a little bit more accessible to salespeople as well. Is that, hey, like, you're not a successful sales just because you seal more deals. Is actually everyone that you meet throughout your profession is going to be helping you throughout your whole career. And that doesn't just apply to sales, it applies to everyone. But I think there was a little bit of detachment going on in general, and then we're getting it back because of AI. So that's why I mentioned relationship is coming back, is
Right.
potentially not because AI is building your relationship, it's probably freeing you from everything that was blocking you from building these relationships.
Well, I think there's definitely a resurgence in specialization, and there's been a couple of concepts around, who in the business is the linchpin, someone that holds it all together, or a flat management structure that really promotes this kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And even when, at a more basic level with some of the end businesses, I've talked to, the enablement of technology is great, even for our customers. They're very tech savvy, but at a certain point, they want to grow their business, not make a tool. So they don't want, having the ability isn't the same as wanting to follow it. And, I was talking to a guy who runs a certain business, totally different, has a CRM software, by the way, in the health sector. So it's really specific to that process and the forms they need to produce. And he was saying, "Oh, I need to do X marketing function." I went, "Oh, yeah, it's you can do it. Go to here, do this, and use this tool." After 10 minutes, he said, "All you've done is prove to me that I need a professional." So I think it's an interesting factor that the professional skill set is changing. And so the networking is an interesting aspect to that I haven't thought about, but I think it's coupled with, you need to still have the experience and be the professional in that space to understand and map it. And something that you had said previously that really sort of was insightful was, with all the technology, it's still only general knowledge base. So to go from general to specific, you still need to be the professional. And it'll be interesting to see how it maybe different generations or different professional levels manage that dynamic relationship change first. Sales, maybe sales has changed from what's the value to who's the person. Makes it easier for me as a marketer.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really about going back to our original topic of that whole efficiency and productivity area. And I think one of the things that large language model did was to actually start changing our view on how we can get to efficiency and productivity has been changed using the technology. I mean, technology is very great so I mean, I always make this joke is computers are dumb. All they do is compute. Yeah, so we are just making ways to compute a thinking process. It's not something that actually generates like something purely out of scratch, right? So computers are very good at remembering things, very large amount, and be able to retrieve information, and be able to compute things. So, but then now large language model, what it does is you can instruct computers with natural language. That's actually what I saw as the biggest difference. Yeah, and it makes technology available for people who are not professional at it. And that's what I actually keep thinking, and that's why I also like for software engineers or computer related people, what I keep telling them is that you need to start learning business skills because this skill set is becoming commoditized now. Because our profession was solely based on the ability to translate what you need in business into an IT logic because people don't know how to do that. But then now if this can be done because business people can tell the computer in natural language, and this is where I see the biggest changes. Anyone can use computer and benefit from it, not based on the design the IT people created, but the way they want. And that actually allows them to unlock that 80% of tasks that they've been doing that they shouldn't be doing.
And I think there's a huge difference from the front end point of view, like all the media is around generative images or, and that's an important topic, but it's really just like marketing. It's just pretty front end. The real changes are in the technology side. So no, my favorite quote was something along the lines of, I want AI to do my dishes and pay my bills so I can read books and paint pictures, not paint pictures and write books so I can do the dishes and finish my laundry. So from a human expression point of view, it's actually kind of, it can only go so far. Although now there's, some replication technologies that we don't even have to have. We could instruct something to have this conversation for us. But I think that the people who are technically minded like yourself have a much bigger insight to huge changes in the back end. But for me, I think the end customer doesn't want to know about it yet necessarily. But
yeah, I think that's where I see things going. Think about if it's like a very purely hypothetical thing is we the computers basically do generate inefficiencies in a way because humans don't think that way. So humans don't think and store information like computers. And not everybody is supposed to understand or operate on algorithms and mathematics and statistics, right? Because there's multiple sides of human intelligence, and this actually the computers are fit. So people like there are certain segment of people who can think like computers, but that's very small, and then the rest of the people doesn't. And then that inefficiency was where IT segment existed for. Is like we basically make something that is a slightly easier for you to use.
So it reminds me of some of the big changes a few years ago, data tracking, mobile phone, and there's some intrusive things like, oh, it listens to me saying ski boots, and then I see an ad for ski boots, or connects your data. And I never found it too offensive, having worked in that area, because it's like, well, they don't care. The companies don't care. You're a number, you're a Mac ID or something. They don't care about you. But then people are worried about other usage. But at the same time, Amazon started, and people absolutely loved being shown a red T-shirt when they had bought red shoes. So the application of the technology is a completely different perspective when it's applied in the right way, and it feels to me like we're doing another version of that. So the application of the technology applied in the right way, I think it's going more and more to the technical side and technical tool side, and the consumer side is they've already accepted it. I accept you when I open my shopping site, I'm going to see the things most likely based off my previous information. And actually, if you don't show me that, it's annoying. Yeah. So the change in perception and awareness and expectation drives a lot. Starts with those mobile technologies. They've been doing that for years. So marketing automation and machine learning, this is just another hyper advanced version, but it's slowly moving back through. Maybe I don't think we'll realize that what some people fear, like the warehouse will just direct send to the end consumer. I don't think it's going to happen, but the technology advancement is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think we're actually covering so many turfs, so I don't even know how to moderate this anymore. But that's the whole point of this so-called podcast. But that was really fun, and I think we do probably head off right because we also have similar kind of approach to how technology is supposed to change human behaviors. I mean, I'm not a really big fan of people who advocate replacement of humans by AI.
I don't know anyone that wants it.
No, and I do not think it is what it's built for as well. Maybe in the future it will change. I know there are drives to also physical AI as well. So to push the AI models into a physical hardware so that you can actually interface with it on a physical world now. Not through the keyboards and mouse. But even though I think I guess if I try to wrap up all the things that we talked about today, is for some reason AI is making us more human than giving us more time to be human than before is what I actually do see as a bigger picture is I find it funny in a way that that's actually something that I also wanted to sort of explain was I think we used to be very human and human to human. So business transactions are all from human to human. And then we had this kind of detachment having the digital systems in between the people. And then now we're getting pulled back in together because the digital systems are becoming more AI, I guess.
Maybe we're just getting better at working out what people are. We're still not there yet.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that I have these kind of calls or conversations with you to actually build kind of a genuine relationship with you, although we actually met up as just a customer and supplier, is different. I think that's not how SaaS used to be. In a way that we would actually meet people in trade shows more, but then from a customer user perspective, a customer supplier perspective, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to make this happen. It was very difficult to make it happen. You would do an AMA webinar and then take your conversation into an email so that you can have a coffee chat.
Right.
I used to do this before, but then now we're kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but I just have more time to do this. And then I think it makes this running or developing a business truly more delightful as well. In general, it's not so detached from my own life now. Yeah.
I don't think you have to explain it deeper than that, because more time is one of those sacrosanct thing that everyone's looking for.
Yeah, all right. Well, we did cover a lot of things. We also talked about our future outlooks as well. Well, we can go back to the technicals of a little bit of a promo period here. So maybe can you give us a bit of a rundown of any upcoming exciting news about My Digital CMO?
Yeah, I can. We're this year we are looking at augmenting our platform with AI agents and enhancing what we have, and it's really helping. So our product's called My Digital CMO, and really that is a strategic mindset. So where our base purpose hasn't changed, but we're using technology to shorten some of those moments and make it easier to use our platform, make it quicker to get a result. And the most value our customers get is from positioning. It's what we just talked about without even preparing this. Positioning themselves with their clients ready to go to that next stage with minimum effort and expediting some of that groundwork for them. So we've got a couple of features using technology to do market research. We've got to analyze your own usage, look for gaps in your own approach versus best practice. We've got a series of things like that, all building off the foundation we have. So it's going to be a good year.
Yeah, definitely exciting. I mean, I also look through your product as well, and it does help even people like me. I think what people like is easy to like, ignore is that if I know the best practice and have the best tools, I should be able to execute it. It's not really a thing. Actually, the execution comes from the experience, and being able to mold your situation into the framework also comes from experience, and your tool does help a lot with bridging this gap. So going from I only know how to do social media marketing to actually having a bigger picture to actually see gaps in your approach against the market. And I think that's where My Digital CMO comes in very handy.
Thank you. Yeah, what's this year look like for Clippy? I would say what's the product direction, but in the next couple of years, but maybe we should only aim for 6 to 12 months.
I think 12 months is also long too. We've been pivoting so quickly. So we are basically getting more focused on actually helping remove the sales operations, the administration as possible. We went from a classic, oh, I don't know what I do, so I went from all-in-one sales platform to what we have now. So it really revolves around what we talked about as well, is that big part of sales, the hard part or the time consumed in sales process can be removed by AI. So for example, entering data into CRM, that's always been a biggest reason why CRM programs fail in small businesses, especially. So we already are able to solve this problem. So now what we're actually going into next is if someone actually comes inbound, and we don't want to lose them because these are the highest intention prospects you can get, people who reach out to you organically. And what we learned from our users was that they want to be able to basically capture them, talk to them, and be able to qualify them as soon as possible. But for business owners or small teams, it's quite often difficult because you might not be 100% just on sales. You might be delivering as well. So we're tapping into this area. So that will be our first kind of agent that is customer facing, because we've been building agents only for internal purposes. But now we're trying to help that. Another one is to basically build something that works like a personal assistant. So to actually go through things that are coming in, things that are coming up, or make suggestions. Maybe you should do this, you should do that. So prioritization, and also making sure to remind you to follow up with someone and get something drafted. Because one of the things we got from our users, the hardest thing about following up is writing the first line of message. So we are trying to to build a system that actually writes that first line of message for you based on the context, which is very, very doable for AI. We do not like sending messages automatically from AI, but we could prepare something for you so that you can just review and refine and send. And we are hoping to make this helpful for a lot of business owners who have to deal with, and actually it goes all the way back to relationships. I think a lot of service business owners start their businesses hoping to leverage their network before. And as your business grows, it actually, you start getting spun out and you have less and less time to catch up with them. And then you have like the new big customer coming in. And we want to make sure these business owners can still keep in touch with everybody. That is very important. So we're very focused on building agents to facilitate this for you, save time for you.
You're going to give us back more time. Sounds good to me.
It's all about time. Yeah.
Sounds brilliant. I look forward to it.
All right.